after news broke that the manslaughter charge was dismissed. Legal expert Jonathan Turley posted on X that this is what DA Alvin Bragg actually wanted all along in setting up a possible compromise verdict. Well, let's talk about that and everything else. Joining us now with more, Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz and Fox News legal analyst Gregg Jarrett. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me again tonight. Important issues here we're facing. Gregg, I want to start with you. At first blush, this dismissal of the manslaughter charge seems like good news. But to the point that this is what Bragg perhaps wanted is what's interesting to me. Can you explain that to the viewer?
Well, it is a partial victory for the defense that prosecutors threw in the towel on the top charge that they should never have brought, and then the judge dismissed it. But in doing so, Judge Wiley, I think, created what looks like reversible error so that if the jury convicts on the lesser charge next week, it would be overturned on appeal. Why? Because the judge contradicted his own earlier ruling that the jury could only consider the second count if they found Penny not guilty of the first count. Well, guess what? That didn't happen. Right. So now the judge is letting the jury do what he said he couldn't do. And the defense is right. This is coercive, sort of forcing the jury to convict by changing the rules after the fact. It's not just unorthodox, it's legally wrong. The judge's only option, one option only, was to declare a mistrial on a deadlock jury and dismiss one charge during deliberations and then double down on the remaining charge. You can't do that. To me, it clearly violates Penny's due process rights. But I agree with Turley. The lesser included was there as a potential compromise, and maybe that was their intention all along.
Right. This is, for all of us, we believe this should never have gone to trial in the first place. And Professor Dershowitz, in this kind of a dynamic, when you've got, even at one point, he told the jury that it would have to be another jury. If they couldn't come to a decision, there would be another trial, and another jury would do their job. But there's no guarantee that there would be another trial. The DA could decide not to try it again. It seems, again, like there's a kind of coercion that's aimed at the jury at this point.
Well, I think it's manipulation. It's manipulation by the prosecution. Look, your commentator that protested was absolutely right. This is a case about racism. It's about the racism by the district attorney. It's racism because if the racial composition had been flipped, nobody would have brought this case. There'd be no protesters outside protesting about a black man being convicted of murder for choking somebody who was white. This is all about race, which is why, although this is an attempt to manipulate the jury into coming to a compromise verdict, I think it will fail. I'm going to predict here and now that I think the jury will remain deadlocked on the lower count because, as the judge pointed out, from what he's heard and seen on the notes, this looks like it's about disagreement between the jurors over two things: justification, was he justified in doing this, and causation, did he actually cause the death? And those issues are the same for the higher count and for the lower count. Also, if it's tried again, he can't put him on trial again for the higher count. That would be double jeopardy. And so I think the issue is whether or not the manipulation will work and we'll get enough jurors to say, well, no, he didn't commit manslaughter, but negligence, well, let's give the prosecution a victory. Remember, too, the prosecution is running for re-election, and he can't win re-election if he loses this case and also loses the Trump case, which he will on appeal if the Trump is allowed to appeal. Look, Bragg is the worst district attorney in modern New York history. That's an office that has had such great people. Thomas Dewey was the district attorney. Morgenthau was the district attorney. Hogan was the district attorney. These are great DAs, and now we have Bragg. My God, he is lowering the office to the lowest possible level and diminishing the respect that all New Yorkers have for what was once a great office located in the Hogan building. And it will never be called the Bragg building. I guarantee you that.
It's a great office. It's a great city, all of which deserve better. And Gregg, I'll ask you the same thing. What do you think this jury is going to do. I mean, a man's liberty is at stake. And if you're going to, kind of do piecemeal things to placate the prosecution, or you feel pressured by a judge, how is that justice at all for when somebody's liberty is at stake?
Oh, it's not justice at all. As I said, the case should never have been brought. The top count, certainly not.
Yeah.
And the fact that the deadlock jury is still there, and I think they'll still be deadlocked on Monday, a reflection of the liberal views in New York and the public pressure that social activists have applied resulted in this case.
Yep.
They care less about law and order and more about identity politics. If Neely was white, Penny black, this case wouldn't have been brought. But racial justice warriors tried to make it into another George Floyd outrage. You played the clip of the Black Lives Matter person. They vilified Penny as a racist vigilante. Alvin Bragg, all too happy to go along and do their bidding. And his lead prosecutor implied at every turn that Penny was racist. There's
Greg,
no evidence.
Greg, go ahead, Professor.
Well, I think this case was hung before they heard any evidence. I think as soon as the jury was selected, this became a hung jury. That some members of the jury said, we don't care about the evidence. If a black man is killed by a white man, there's guilt. And you're not going to shake that. No amount of reading back of transcripts, no amount of evidence, no amount of instruction is going to shake that. So I think that the people who have voted for a hung jury, basically on the top count, they're going to stick with it on the lower count. I don't think you're going to move people by the law or the facts. You're going to move them only by the emotions of race, and that's what Bragg has been playing into, and it's a disgrace.
But see, then, Greg, that's I think exactly the point, is that the things that made this indeterminable for the manslaughter charge is exactly the same as Professor Dershowitz noted for this other charge. So there's unless somebody makes a decision because they've been bullied or pressured. But I think in this kind of a trial, I think that's less likely in this kind of a case.
Yes.
So what do you think they're going to do? Can you read the tea leaves here for a minute?
Yeah, if you look at the questions they asked over and over and over of the judge, please explain to us the law on justification. Well, the doctrine of justifiable homicide applies to both the top count now dismissed and the lower count, which still exists.
Right.
So those same people that had concerns about justification still harbor those concerns, and they're the type of concerns that are deeply embedded in them. And so I doubt that they're going to change. I think Professor Dershowitz is right. There's still going to be a hung jury on Monday, but we'll have to wait and see.
We will. And, this is perhaps the best case scenario.
There's one possibility.
The best case scenario.
Yeah, there's one possibility that
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. There's one possibility of the case being unhung, and that is fear. Fear on the part of some of the jurors who would vote for acquit. You have these people standing outside shouting racial epithets. One of them was shouting homophobic epithets at the defendant in the case. Nobody knows what his sexual orientation is. Nobody should care. But these are rioters. These are Black Lives Matter rioters. These are people who don't care about justice. They only care about justice for them and their race. And this is racial injustice. This is so scary for America. And I hope the judge will have the good sense to understand that you can't allow that kind of racism to enter into the courtroom. He allowed one of the Black Lives Matter people to come into the courtroom and sit next to the family of the victim after he had made these racial and homophobic statements. So we have to be very concerned, because what is today unfair to one group of people can easily be as unfair to other group of people.
We do have to go, but I'll tell you, this is a dynamic where we've seen too often, of course, with the Jewish community here in New York and around the country. This jury refusing to participate with another deadlock would be obviously the best news we could have at this point. Professor Dershowitz, Gregg Jarrett, great job. Thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.